View Church. This is going to be a recorded session for anyone who would like to take a look at this later and gain information because maybe you were unable to attend. We'd like to open this presentation with prayer, and I'd like to introduce our pastor, Pastor Amy Jordan.
Hello, good evening. Good to be with you. Just want to remind you all that this is an information gathering session. And we're hoping that you will keep your mind open and just hear what is presented. And I'll ask you now if you'll join me in prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for this time together and for your leading in this congregation. Help us to be wise stewards of the property, and help us especially to be wise stewards of the ministries that have been bequeathed to us. Let us go forth in love and in grace, opening ourselves to our community in the best way possible. These things we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
And we appreciate your patience this evening as we navigate this new way of relaying information to you. We do have some slides that we'll be presenting to you as well. So I will start the presentation of that, and you will begin to see it on your screen. So as we welcome you tonight, we'd like to let you know that this is information gathered from several months of the leadership board as they met to go over what was needing to be done with the property here at Mesa View, looking at expenses, looking at ways that we can maybe cut costs, taking a look at our finances in great detail. And again, we do have a listening stance. As we are navigating through all of this information, we realize that it is very new to some of you, although we have been experiencing the rush of information for several months. So we certainly expect that there will be time that is needed for everyone to catch up to where we, the board, are in our understanding of the process and what's happening. This is definitely a faith-filled journey. And there has been a vision for God's church all throughout Mesa View's history. We look for mission, stability, and longevity as we navigate these different pieces of information that are coming into the board. And so I have Tom Bonnell here to talk to you a little bit about the history of the church, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Tom. See, I think it's
so. Good evening. My name is Tom Bonnell. My wife and I have been members here for 20 years, and the church goes back a lot further than that. So, in the early 80s, with development on the west side of Albuquerque, there was seen the need for a Methodist church here on the west side. And Mesa View was established, meeting first in using the founder's home, meeting in homes, and soon they outgrew the initial house, moved to a larger members' house, and then found a location on the west side just up Montano where they where we rented space. And then about 25 years ago, looking for a more permanent location, this property was purchased, and we started having our church here. So at that time, this building, the worship center, had not been created yet, and we were meeting in the admin building up on Taylor Ranch, on the corner there. And when it was purchased, the area out here beside the worship center next to the admin building was all grass. There was the pond out there with a fountain. So it was very green, very lush. And at the time of the purchase, the understanding with the city was that they would help maintain that park. So they took care of the watering and the cutting the grass and trimming and all that stuff. Then after a few years, I think it was about 10 years after that, the city announced that they couldn't support us anymore on that. So it fell to us as a church to take over the watering of the grass, cutting the grass, maintaining the pond out there. About 25 years ago, we built this building. So this building, what's now our worship center, was built. It was never intended to be the worship center. It was intended as a more of a community fellowship hall. It was built with the intent of supporting the preschool. So we continued, when we first started attending here 20 years ago, we were still holding our services in the admin building. And this was the fellowship preschool. So when it was the fifth Sunday and we had potlucks, this is where we held them. But after we had that, then we had to reassemble the preschool. And now, due to other changes, we no longer have the preschool. So likewise, we no longer decided that we could not support the park anymore, the pond. The water bills were just getting too expensive. That was far more than what our budget could handle. So hence, we really don't have a pond out there anymore. Certainly not a fountain. There's virtually no grass anymore since we can't water the whole acreage that we have. And then looking at our financial situation, we in 2022, pandemic hit. In the midst of that, we went virtual for a while during that, but that was also the time frame where we looked at and entered into discussions with Suriname, and they purchased the eastern part of our property. So that construction that's going on out there has been going on since 2022, still not completed. So hence, it's really not ideal for the appearance of our property. But over the years, our membership has decreased as well. So that has impacted our finances. So years ago, we had over 200 members. Today, we usually have around 65 people in attendance on Sundays. So that has definitely decreased. And that's kind of led us to where we are now of looking at our finances. The admin building is in need of some extensive repairs. We've already done some of those repairs, but there are other repairs. And that's what we're kind of looking at here. So that picture on the left, you can see is kind of the grounds. Since we're no longer irrigating, there's no grass. Native plants have taken over. The age of the buildings, we do have some leaks and other maintenance issues going on. So we have had the roof repaired, but we still have some minor leaks, which are causing the ceiling tiles to deteriorate that have to be fixed and replaced. We've replaced the water heater in the admin building. That's the pipe there on the right that you see. And then there are other maintenance issues going on that need to be taken care of. We've had to pay for several trees to be removed over the years. There are cracks in the parking lot and sidewalks that are being taken over by goat heads and other weeds. So that's a constant maintenance issue, going out and pulling weeds and keeping the other weeds and plants at bay. So this is a lot of the issues that we're facing, but as a community of faith, we're striving to do great things and provide a lot of community outreach. These are some of the things that we try and accomplish and on a daily basis and over time to support our community and the faith community here on the west side of Albuquerque. So, pictures we've got. That was our Thanksgiving dinner. We all have a Thanksgiving dinner every year. This was the the women's choir that have performed for us a couple of times. Very, very useful. And you can see our smiling faces there with Pastor Amy. Okay. So, and let's see, our Christmas celebration, I think was Pat putting the star on the tree, or was that the tree and the partridge in a pear tree? The sing-along, okay. And then we've participated in several events in the community. And then we've got Travis over there helping maintain the building, cleaning our carpets for us, our Jedi carpet cleaner. So, all right. And then again, some of our other activities and outreach efforts that we have. So the Native American sewing class that Laura Church has facilitated through APS, and some of our craft fairs that had with the music festival that we've held. Yep, the snack bags over there on the far right. I was trying to see what the construction was all about. That's the water repair. Yeah. So we've had water bills, repairs, plumbing issues that we've been dealing with. So, all right. So, some of our operating costs and expenses, want to bring that to your attention. So for over the past year, our total operating cost, including our monthly mortgage payments, staff, and utilities, totaled $200,572 for the year. Some of those recent updates to our infrastructure, both in the admin building and here in the worship center. The HVAC repairs was about $5,000. There are windows that had to be replaced due to vandalism, about $1,500. The hot water heater that we talked about earlier in the admin building was $3,400. You saw pictures of the ceiling tiles, but we redid the sound booth, upgraded it, floor repairs, painting, light bulbs. You've got to have lights. That's been ran about $4,000 for the year. Those dead trees, to get them trimmed and removed, was about $7,000. And then we spent about $1,000 on other electrical issues. So that's $2,200 there. $22,000 that was spent. Our income sources for the year, our tithes and offerings totaled $145,536, with an average weekly attendance of 65, which is less than what it was years ago. We do rent out some office space in the admin building, and that brings in $41,616. every year. That's a daycare up there, JC Cleaning, and Farmers Insurance has an office there. And since the preschool never came back online after the pandemic, so there's no income from the preschool anymore. So if you compare those, our operating cost versus our total income, you can see that there is a deficit of $15,420 for the year. So that's one of the things that we're wanting to address in this meeting, is making you aware of this and looking at ways to cover that deficit, plus looking at ways forward to keep the buildings maintained, to upgrade them, to take care of the grounds, and to increase our staff. So some of those costs to consider for the administration building and other maintenance needs, they're estimated to be between $130,000 and $180,000. So we've got an aging HVAC system that needs to be repaired or replaced. There are windows that need to be replaced. Those are the original windows in the admin building. We have some broken windows here in the worship center that also need to be repaired. And we already talked about the roof. There are some leaks that need to be taken care of and addressed, either by replacing the roof entirely or repairing the existing roof. And when you come into our parking lot area and drive by the north side of the admin building, you may notice some orange cones and yellow tape out there where there's some broken concrete that needs to be worked on. Earlier I talked about, then we showed you a picture of the weeds and things growing in the cracks in the parking lot. So the parking lot needs to be sealed and resurfaced. And then there's areas of the stucco on the admin building that need to be repaired or replaced. So either we need to patch all those problem areas, or better yet, to restucco the entire building. Okay. So in addition to that, we are looking at and would like to upgrade our existing cameras for security reasons. Then we would also like to do something about the landscaping to beautify the grounds, make them more appealing, more attractive, more useful than they currently are. And then we need to maintain all of those outdoor spaces, as well as the buildings, the facilities. We currently have very minimal staff. We would like to improve and increase our staff for the church. We just went through the training for active shooters. So we would like to look at having a security officer, especially considering some of our outreach ministries. And we do not currently have a choir director, accompanist, music director. So we would certainly like to replace our prior choir director. And our office is pretty much run by volunteers. So having an office administrator would be a great addition to the church. Also, being able to have a more professional audio sound production would be great, and somebody who could work with and improve our online presence. So an IT specialist would be a fantastic addition as well. And then programming for growth, looking at our children, youth, and young adult ministries. So we're estimating that could be anywhere, depending upon full-time versus part-time, $30,000 to $100,000 increase for staffing. These would certainly help the church grow. So that's kind of our vision for the future. I'll let Travis tell you more.
Hello, Travis Dixon. I am the SPRC, which is the staff pastor. Oh, staff parish relations chair. Okay. So you could have seen from one of the previous slides that there's not any staff. So that's made this job a whole lot easier so far this year. And then again, I'd like to appreciate Christy with the adding the Star Wars for me. You can pretty much just add, hey, there's going to be Star Wars. Will you going to show up for something? And I'll volunteer. So yeah, I just wanted to point out, thank you, Brian, for being here, giving up your night off. We're borrowing the Good Medicine Way setup here, because normally if you look at it on Facebook and you see our videos, it's some goon in the back with an iPhone that's just transmitting to the Facebook page. So this is really nice. Thank you very much. Apologize. So yeah. So the what are we looking at? What do we see for the future of Mesa View? What might be possible? One of the things is that when we talk about what we currently have is people think like this building wasn't designed to be the worship center, and it's larger multi-purpose type setup, and it's worked well for us so far. But if we wanted to have a more reverent, actual, like church type setup, right, and have like dedicated areas for certain things. So that's this first picture here, and then the other picture with the labyrinth. When the group went to, what was the location with the Abbey? Okay, so when the group went to the Abbey and they were describing the labyrinth originally, I don't know if you're any people of a certain age. Then Labyrinth is the David Bowie movie with the Muppets, but then the other Labyrinth that came to my mind, because I think if you're a Gen X kid, I think at some point you read a Stephen King book way too early, and that just kind of scarred everybody for life. But that's, for me, the Labyrinth is the hedge maze at the end of The Shining, and neither one of those things would be like what you would think you'd want in a church. But when I saw this picture here, I was like, well, yeah, this would definitely be something that you might want to have around it. It's a more reflective and contemplative type area that also wouldn't cost $5,000 a month in water. So that would be something that we potentially could do. And then just carrying on, the goals of what the current proposal is to pay off our debt, be debt free, not have to be paying on a mortgage, and be able to take the energy and everything that's going towards that currently, and be able to use that to refocus back on serving the community, like being able to take the money that we're putting on maintenance of the building and the mortgage and all of that, and be able to focus more on helping out with the Roost Closet, the food pantry, LGBT outreach, Good Medicine Way. To me, what the mission of the church is, and trim it down so that we have a manageable property that we could be responsible for. Currently, with having the office building, that is because we're renting it out. We're a business on that end, and it's an obligation. So if the air conditioning goes down, we can't say, hey, Pastor Amy, can you just get some ice water for a little while, and it's going to take a couple of weeks to get somebody out there, or if the water coming in starts getting kind of gross, we can't, like, hey, we're just going to bring some bottled water in for a little while, it's going to be all right. You have to maintain that. You have to. There's timelines. It's an obligation. You have to do that. So that big, $130,000 thing up there, that's coming due, and that will have to be done. These aren't like things that you can put off indefinitely. If there's a leak in the roof, you can't just set a bucket underneath it and say, hey, we're going to come by and dump this out, periodically. If you're paying rent on something, there's legal obligations that you get as a renter. So that's part of what we're talking about there. The just having the more manageable and whatever. So we are fortunate here recently that we haven't had a ton. I mean, you saw the pictures of the weeds and everything. We haven't had but 2 weed pulling days so far this year. That's been like a big church group thing. One of them, I think Mark and Stephanie might have been the only ones that show up. Well, I know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I know between me and Stephanie, we helped out, but we've had a few where it's just been like onesie twosie people coming out, helping out with stuff. The day that you saw if you saw the picture of Tracy and Stephanie there, being rabble rousers, that was the day I was here cleaning the carpets because we had the big leak over in the baby room and whatnot. So when I was here, I was taking a break and I went outside and I looked, and I'm not joking. There were 5 buses. No, I don't want to over-exaggerate. 3 buses, but there was probably 30 kids. And no, there was more than that. There was quite a few kids. There was a lot of teenagers because I just kept seeing people walking past the building, and I thought they were going over to the protest, but they weren't. There were kids coming around, pulling weeds, taking care of this, and they started painting the wall outside. So the wall, when you first start driving in, that's the back of those people's backyards. That's now been painted all the way across. That was the Serenum and the volunteer people that came out, and they were pulling the weeds and taking care of some of the stuff around the property. And then I can't remember what was the name of the group that Good Medicine Way sponsored that came out that stayed here. Do you remember the youth group, the InterVarsity? So the InterVarsity group that the Good Medicine Way people came out. When they came out, they spent 4 hours pulling weeds out of the playground, and that's all sand. And I mean, we've pulled weeds out of it. I've sprayed the whole area twice. It's impossible to maintain that to any, like, where you would want, hey, we got kids coming in and playing on a regular basis. It's constant maintenance on that. So to be able to focus on our smaller area would be one of the goals that we're trying to do. So what are some of the other things that we can talk about? Increased giving and more active involvement in the general maintenance. Like we've had 2 or 3 times where Dave went over to maintain you did the sprinklers? Yeah, but that was, okay, so I was so worried about that because I thought that was like the fire maintenance sprinkler systems when you guys were first talking about it. And you're like, I just shut it off for now. And like, like we can't have, but it was the irrigation sprinklers. I felt a lot better about that. So that was something that we could put off for temporarily. But the water fountain and some other things like that, like we've had people showing up. We would need a lot more of that to try to maintain as much as possible. And then one of the other options that was discussed was we currently have equity in the property that we have. We could borrow against that and then do all the maintenance and things like that, and hope to be able to raise the rents to a certain extent. We're limited on how much, with the book of discipline, how much we can have as external income versus like church giving. So there's a balance in that. You can't have a too big of a percentage of like business money coming in. And but yeah, we could have fund drives and just go back to every year we're going to have somebody come up and do one Sunday of hey, we all need to understand that the churches need money and operate off of things. It's not the existing cost money. My personal hope is that if we start doing that again, it's a lot nicer to be able to do, hey, Ruth's Closet needs X number of dollars for the year, and have like a week or so of we're doing a drive for Ruth's Closet. Or if we get a youth group going and the youth group wants to do some sort of activity, have 2 or 3 weeks of the youth group going. Earlier, we did have 2 or 3 weeks where we had, hey, here's a list of all the broken stuff around here. It listed like the foyer that needed to be painted, the carpet and stuff that needed to be fixed, the windows, and there was a laundry list of things that need to be done. And there just wasn't as much interactive or interaction with that kind of stuff. Like I think that if we had more things that people see as like, yes, I'm making an actual difference in like I said, people want to bring food, people want to donate clothes, people want to do that kind of thing, but for some reason the water heater just doesn't have the same appeal. Air conditioner doesn't have the same appeal. So that's that regardless of anything that goes forward, there will be more. Hey, everybody, we all need to kick in for whatever the next program is going to be. But the other option would be we'll just continue on with what we have, and we will hope for the best, and we'll see what happens. So some of the things that we've talked about is like the maintenance and everything like that, the logic of the sale. The advantages would be what we just saw with we could have a more reverent, smaller actual worship area. And Chrissy will be up here in just a few minutes to kind of go over ideas and drawings that we've had done up. Very, very preliminary, just, spitballing kind of type stuff. And what we're actually talking about as far as like the actual sale of the property. So we had a realtor come out and they gave the estimate, and they went through what the market is currently for office space and that kind of thing. And they basically the long and the short of it is we currently think that we could potentially, and this is all preliminary, if we went on the open market, right? So if we just said, hey, we're just going to offer this out for whoever, and potentially anybody could come by it. It might be in the neighborhood of 860. With everything all together, potentially might be a ballpark $1 million. That's if we just let it go out in the open. Ideally, I mean, if we did that, we don't have any control over who buys it and what they do with it and any of that kind of stuff. So if XYZ limited liability corporation or whatever, they could, it could be a pot shop, it could be vape store, it could be whatever that wouldn't necessarily, well, depending on who you are, wouldn't align with your thing, but for some of us it might. But the goal would be to we have been in discussion with Serenum. So if it takes a lot to spin up the wheels for to actually get a real offer on anything like that, they're a bigger organization, but they have shown interest in wanting to expand their operation and taking over that side of it. So one of the things we're looking at is selling the actual building over there and the property that's in between that and Montano and over there on Taylor Ranch. The other thing that we've talked about is potentially doing the parking lot in with that, and then Serenum would be able to do the maintenance on the parking lot. We would still have access to the parking lot. We would still be able to come here on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, any day that we wanted to do anything, and we have access to the parking lot and all that kind of stuff. But this would leave us the playground area, the area around the playground where we have the storage unit, the big storage trailer thing now over there, and the property in between this current building and the road out there. So we would still have plenty of room to, if we wanted to do some expansion, we could do some expansion. If we wanted to put the labyrinth out there, we would have room for all of that. And have some space for options later on if we decided we needed to. So if in the future we get a whole lot more families coming in and all that kind of stuff, and that would be a wonderful problem to have. If all of a sudden we have 200 people showing up every week, then there would still be options for that kind of stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to Christy. She's going to go through some of the ideas that we've had for what we could potentially do with the room that we currently have. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Tom. This is just a wonderful meeting and very informative. This is a time for the board and for the community here at Mesa View to engage in some rainbow thinking. My therapist talks about black and white thinking, and that can get us into trouble. But when we have rainbow thinking, there are endless possibilities in that. And so we could create a place that meets our needs with consideration of the ministries and missions of this church. An architect could help us to realize the potential of our current property. This small drawing represents the worship center building, and I'm putting my pointer over the loft area that's currently unusable. If we were able to create more use in this building, including that loft space, an architect could help us actually have that come to fruition by talking with the fire marshal, understanding what the code is for us to be able to have occupiable, usable space there. So that's a really interesting proposition. A renovation of a current existing building runs between $300 and $400 a square foot. And a new build is $550 all the way up to $800 a square foot, because there's no infrastructure under a new construction. But because we have the advantage here of having infrastructure, having plumbing, having electrical, having the fire riser, having all of this sewage, water, all of that in place, we really can do a lot with this building. Something that I think is important to think about, a lot of people in the neighborhood, a lot of people on Nextdoor have been commenting that our property is an eyesore. Our own realtor used that word eyesore. When we think about the kingdom of God and we think about what we want to project out into the world, we're not really doing a good job of that right now, the way that our property looks. And Paul Rand, an architect, says that design is the silent ambassador of your brand. Our silent ambassador right now is a weed patch, blowing dust, rampant weeds. There's a lot of things that we could do a lot better on. And I think it's our responsibility to the kingdom to do that type of work. So I think that's where we're headed in the discussions of potential, rainbow thinking. What could this look like? This is the worship center building that we're standing in. And this is a rough out of the current floor plan. You can see the worship space, the side rooms here that are used, some for Sunday school, some for prayer, some for storage, some for Good Medicine Way, some for Ruth's Closet. There are also offices here that aren't used right now. There's some storage that could be consolidated right now. Some of the architectural renderings that we received look like this. In option one, we could have over 120 people and build out a chapel inside the current area where we're all sitting right now, and make that space more reverent, more beautiful, more holy, so that when people come in on a Sunday, they have a space to enter through the foyer, they have a gathering area, they still have the coffee and the kitchen access. But some of those areas in the back would be peeled away so that there's more room for people to mingle. And then the sound booth and the interior of the chapel would include some exits on both ends. And there's several ways that this looks. And again, this is purely someone's imagination for what this building could look like. A second option, again, seating 120, 130 folks and creating that usable space above the kitchen. We also have to consider the American Disabilities Act. So we want to make sure this is welcoming for everyone. And this isn't just the kids hang out or something like that where people could go that can climb the stairs. So that's something that we'll have to discuss and figure out. In this option, the sound booth is located near the front section, and there's some storage and there's a little bit different entryway. And in this one, we've actually taken back some closet space and some storage space and made that a fellowship hall and extra large expanse of fellowship where we can have more gatherings. This option seats about, without my glasses, I'm going to guess that says 120. Again, 2 entrances, very beautiful. Coming in from the doors, you would see an open fellowship area, and you would be able to enter the worship space from those different ways. This also entails a little bit of work up in the ceiling. So we have a large volume of space inside the worship center that is using heating, air conditioning, lighting, and so forth. In this model, it was explained to us that we can reduce the volume that needs to be heated and cooled. So the side rooms would be connected with hallways that look more like normal hallways with ceilings of the appropriate size. So we're not talking about you walk through the building and you look up and you still see all of the bare roofing. That would all be finished out, and the lighting and the space would be reconfigured so that it looks appropriate to the size and the scale of the new design. At this point in time, we had set aside a question and answer time, and we did have some questions in our previous session. We may or may not go into a few of those. If there's anyone here that has a question that they feel would be helpful, we could entertain those. And will this microphone pick up folks, or will we need to? Okay. If anyone wants to step up, we can capture you from that vantage point.
I would share that. She wants to know what the plan is while those renovations are happening, where we would worship, and what the setup would look like.
That's an excellent question. I think everyone.
Can't hear
Did
it.
you not hear me? Did that not work?
Okay.
It's not being broadcast over.
Okay, I'll say
The
it.
question was, what happens while we're in transition? What happens to us as a worshiping body while we're in transition? If there's a project going on in this space, where do we land? Where does that put us? That is a great question. There were several options thrown out there. One being, if our partner, Saranam, is gracious and does purchase the building and would allow us to continue to use it, we may be able to use that building in an ongoing way. We may be able to rent office space from them. We may be able to utilize the meeting rooms. We may be able to continue to operate kind of normally. It just depends on our relationship with them and their plans going forward for that space. So one option might be go back to our old worship home over there. Another option would be to put up a blow up building in the flat space here. It can be heated, it can be cooled. The gymnasium at Volcano Vista High School was a blow up gym for the first couple of years that kids were attending Volcano Vista. It was a permanent, lovely, air conditioned, finished out building that could be taken away once the construction was completed. So in figuring costs for renovations in this building, that type of a structure was also included in estimates. So for around $350,000, some of the ideas that were on those previous pictures, as well as a temporary worship space, could be in the picture for us. And if you know, I'm just going to throw this out here. If the sale, you know, again, This is all speculative. We don't have a check in hand. We're not voting today. It's informational. But if there were, say, $800,000 and less than half of that goes towards beautifying this part of our property, then we still have the other half of that to continue with a nest egg for the future, for an addition out to the east side, for other structures, for all the types of building infrastructure that we need. Sale of property does need to be dedicated back to property. We can't, for example, hire an associate pastor with that money. So those are some things I wanted to include in the presentation. I hope that helps answer that question, that we have had in mind. You know, if we're displaced for a few months, what does that look like? A third option, share a space with another church or with the public school or some of those types of things that go on around us all the time. So we have multiple options. Again, the rainbow thinking on that. Other questions here from this group? So one of the, should I go through the questions that we had before or selectively? I'm looking at Pastor. You can't tell who I'm looking at, but. Okay. All right, Dave, come on up. And I may have to repeat it for the group.
We're looking at, the sale of what you said something around 860,000 to $1 million. And then we're also looking at building repairs over there of 130,000 to what, 200, or was it 200,000?
Right.
Okay. So is that included in the sale? What I'm saying is
that's part of the negotiation.
So what, if the sale is, $1 million, if we owe $200,000 in spending, are they going to take that out as a carpet allowance type thing, or?
That's part of the negotiation that our expert realtor would have with their realtor. And in that case, maybe it's not $1 million, maybe it's 900,000, and we split the difference. But it's all part of the negotiating process.
Okay.
We don't feel like we're going to lose in the market by selling to someone like Suriname. We feel like whatever their offer is and whatever the negotiation is still fair and equitable according to what any realtor around town would sell any property for. We're not giving away what we have, or we're not bargain basement discounting it because of some repairs that are needed. So we have faith in the realtors and the process that we would get a fair market value.
Okay.
Just like a home, your home may have $1,000 carpet allowance because the kids spilled red juice on the carpet.
Yeah.
And that's understandable. So I really appreciate you pointing that out, and I appreciate your question.
I might touch on just a couple of things that we talked about Sunday. Number one, we were asked about doing a stewardship campaign, and the board has already been in discussion about doing that this year. So that's something that needs to happen regardless of a decision that we make. We need to all be aware of our giving, and if it's possible that we increase our giving. Also, part of the money from a potential sale would be used to pay off our debt. Right now, it is currently $73,000. We have had a very generous gift just recently from an individual that will go strictly to the principal. So that will help in that regard as well. I can't think of anything else we touched on Sunday that seems particularly important. Can any of the board? Are we ready to wrap up? No questions on the chat? Michael. But there were no questions in the chat. Okay, all right. Are we ready to kind of wrap up? I really want to say thank you to the board. This is the third presentation that they have offered to you, the congregation. And we do still have another one on Sunday after worship. It'll begin at 11:10. Really want to encourage everybody to participate in that. Even if you are not a member, I think the conversations that we're having are pertinent to everybody that attends Mesa View. Any final comments? Nope. Let's do the prayer. And how do I find it? On the bottom? Nope. You better come do it for me or I'm going to blow up your computer. Oh, there it is. We'll close with this prayer. If you are joining us online, you can say it with us. Otherwise, the board will pray. Not showing? Oh, that's not the share. Okay, I'll say this prayer for each of us together. Will you join me? God, help us find a way for Mesa View to thrive into the future, serve out its mission, and radically move the church into financial stability and longevity. These things we pray in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us. That concludes our presentation for this evening. Oh, yes, I could. Do you want me to? Is that gonna